Hey friends, and welcome back to the show. I know there's a lot that goes into analyzing real estate deals, whether it be a rental property or whether it be a fix and flip. And so I took the time to put together a course that breaks down exactly how you analyze a rental property, how you analyze a fix and flip, and even how you analyze a WIIRE deal. We talk all about finding ARV, which is after repair value, rental comps, rehab estimates. I'm gonna hook you guys up with a 25-page glossary that breaks down all the real estate terms and formulas for the different returns we're trying to find. I'm going to teach you what your returns should be for each metric, what metrics to look for, anything and everything that you would need to know how to analyze a real estate deal. I break it down in my How to Analyze course. And if you want it, you can go down to the show notes and click the link, or you can go to analyzewithjaron.com. Also, if you've ever been interested in being mentored by myself and joining my real estate community, I'm hosting a free public Q&A on April 3rd at 7 p.m. to answer any and all questions you may have with what is included with the mentorship with Jaron and his team. If you're interested in attending and learning more, scroll down to the show notes. There'll be a link for it. Sign up, and I'll see you on April 3rd at 7 p.m. All right, guys, I'm here with Grace and Amelia. What's up, y'all?
Hey, we're so happy to be here.
They are absolute studs. Amelia's got like 36 doors, Grace 25, which I don't know if there's any competition there. I want to talk about that. They started in 2020, multifamily, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, fix and flips. They're almost authors. Their new book, The Life Hack Landlord. Did I butcher that? Life Hack Landlord, right?
Nailed it.
That's it.
Just told me it too. Comes out, hopefully, April 25th, 2024. They're writing it with bigger pockets. And they run the WIIRE Community, which is women investing in real estate. So they are very busy, but they took time out of their day to hang out with us. So guys, I am super excited. Where did the connection come from with you two? How did y'all end up going in and doing life and business together?
I slid into Amelia's DMs on Instagram.
Classic.
Yeah, it was super fun how we met. Grace can tell the story for sure.
Yeah, I just started sharing about my real estate story on Instagram, super low key, never thought anything of it. And then I found Amelia, I don't know how, and I slid into her DMs. I was like, oh my God, you live like 2 hours away from me. You're doing the same thing. Like, we need to be best friends. Want to host a meetup with me? You can be the first guest. And then after, I was like, hey, we should make this a thing. That was so much fun. We laughed really hard. We just instantly connected, and then it turned into what WIIRE is today.
Wow. These two are great listeners, by the way. I got to meet them in Orlando at Bigger Pockets, and we had a blast. We just hit it off. We were at that event with Backflip, and then y'all are just cool. You know, you got feel. Emotional intelligence, feel. You're funny. Like, you know, it's just enjoyable to be around people like you guys.
Thank you. We feel the same way about you. So we're super excited to be on this podcast because we vibe. We vibe well.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. So let's jump into your guys' real estate stories. And I imagine they're probably separate at some points. Maybe you've done some deals together. Maybe I'm wrong. You've done all of them together. But Amelia, I'll let you start. I think you're up to 36 doors now. Doesn't matter. The point is you've done a lot of real estate. What's the backstory? How'd you get into it? Why real estate? And then what's kind of been that journey and progression to get you where you are today?
Grace and I actually have only done one deal together, which a lot of people get confused by. They think we do everything together. But my journey started in 2019 when I realized I did not want to work for the man forever. And I somehow decided I was going to be a flipper like that you see on HGTV.
It's so easy. It's romantic.
Yeah. Oh, I was literally going to just say, I thought, oh, how hard can that be? I'm kind of handy. I can literally do that. And so I did that and flipped a property with my parents because I didn't have the money at the time to purchase it. And they were like, we'll go in on it with you. Although it took me like 2 years to convince them to do it. And we made a decent chunk of change on that. And I took my half and decided I don't want to be a flipper anymore. This is way too much work. We were working nights and weekends, DIYing everything. And so I bought a triplex in Iowa for $78,000. So, I mean, not that much money. If you're in California or somewhere else, I feel bad for you.
Houses like that really exist? I'm like, yes, they really do.
Oh, yeah, I know. People say all the time you can't find that. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely you can. So I bought a triplex and I did a BRRRR on that. So I refinanced and pulled my cash out and bought a quadplex like 3 months later. So I had 7 doors and I was literally addicted at that point.
You're not house hacking. Like, this is just straight up BRRRR.
Never house hacked, which is my biggest regret. I'm like, why did I not buy a quadplex right out of college and then just do that every single year until today?
Yes,
but never house hacked. So I had 7 doors within like 3 months of buying rental properties. And like I said, I was addicted. And then my parents were like, wait a minute, we want back in on this. Like, you're making money and we're not. And so then we started partnering together, and I bought 8 more doors with them, and then found a partner on Instagram and bought an 11-unit apartment. And then it just kind of kept snowballing from there. So that's just kind of the short story of how I got started.
Have all of yours been multifamily up to this point?
I bought a package deal from an investor that was like 4 or 5 single family homes, but yes, everything that I own is, I think, small multifamily, other than like maybe 5 single families.
Wow. And majority burr strategy?
I would say 50% is Burr, probably. Yeah.
Dude, it's so powerful. Like, it's such a powerful strategy when you can, even if you don't burr right away. I think when people hear burr, it's like you have to refi immediately, which I guess that's the traditional sense of burr, is like, let's get it flipped, or refinance out, get our money back immediately. But like those of you who've been in real estate long enough, like yourselves and I have, even if you're not refining right away, there's a strong chance you're going to get that capital back at some point down the road.
Right. And honestly, it took me a while to understand the Burr process. And I think I'm a fairly intelligent person. I mean, I'm not the smartest, but the concept of like going further into debt, because I'm like a Dave Ramsey dropout, I was like, wait a minute. I'm going to take out a bigger loan on this property. Like, but then I was like, but I get to pull all my cash out. So, like, I just couldn't wrap my head around that. And then finally, when it clicked, I was like, oh, wow, this is the way. This is how you do it.
It's unbelievable. I was almost forced to do it. So I'm like you, like Dave Ramsey guy. So my wife and I, when we got married, had over $100,000 in debt. And so we spent from 2013 to 2018 paying off debt. Like, a lot
Hmm.
of people look at my story now and I talk about all the real estate stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I was in the trenches for 5 years just paying off debt. And Dave Ramsey was a huge part of that. We heard him speak at a church one night, had no idea who he was, and he gave his call to action at the end to buy his Financial Peace University. We bought it and we implemented what he said. Debt snowballing, within 5 years we had over $100,000 of debt paid off. And then we started investing in real estate in 2018, and we bought our first 2 deals in 2018, 20% down, rehabbed with our own money. And I think by those 2 deals combined, we had put like 50 grand in. That was all the
Hmm.
money I had. And I was like, oh shoot, like, I feel cool, like, my chest is bowed out, I'm a real estate investor now, think I'm something. It's the first time I bought something that paid me back, I'm fired up. But now I'm like, bro, I can't buy anything else, I don't have any more money right now. And so I figured out what I thought was just the craziest thing of all time. I didn't even know it was called Burr at the time. I realized, okay, if I use somebody else's money, they could lend it to me. If I bought undervalued enough and then rehabbed at the right amount, then I could go to a small local bank and refinance and get all that money back. And so we went from 2 properties in 2018 and then bought 19 in 2019. And
That's
Wow.
it was
incredible.
like, and most of those were Burr. I think we had one deal that was a JV that wasn't a complete Burr that added to, 9 of those 19. But the rest of them, I believe, I'd have to go back and fact check myself, were the Burr strategy. And so it's so powerful that you can literally use somebody else's money to buy a property and then refi all that money out, pay them, and then you have this unit that has debt on it that somebody else is now paying off, and you don't have any of your own money left in the deal. And I've had deals where I get paid money
Mhm.
Absolutely.
at the closing table. And then I have deals where you leave some money in. So that's not a bad thing either. People think, well, if I'm refining, I still have to leave 7 grand in the deal. I'm like, okay, is that better than 20%? So anyways, I could talk about Burr all day long. It's powerful strategy and I love seeing it executed. How about you, Grace? How did you get started and get to where you are today?
Well, first, I wanna say it's impressive you figured it out without, like, the blueprint. I definitely learned it from, like, a book. I don't think
Yeah.
I would've figured that out
I
right
had a
away.
mentor. My best friend kind of was showing me the ropes. So I can't say like I'm the genius here. I was kind of seeing him do stuff, but yes, yeah. Everybody needs a
Okay, that makes sense. But I got started shortly after Amelia in 2021, and my boyfriend, was had flipped a house when I was in college, and I remember I helped paint, and I was like, "This would be really fun to do someday." I did not realize, like, in, like, a short year, I would go and do it. So, after college, it was a really boring Iowa winter. I was like, "Let's do something. Let's get a house to flip," and we did a burr, and from there, I was addicted. It took 6 months, DIY, full gut. It was absolutely miserable, but somehow I fell in love with it, and after that first one, I was like, "All right, let's just not let the money stop us. Let's just keep figuring it out." So I used creative financing, Burr, everything under the sun, and grew my portfolio to what it is today.
Wow. And you're at what, 25-ish doors, whatever? You're at a lot of doors.
Yep.
And do you have a certain asset class you look for? Your single family, multifamily, mix of both?
I do small multifamily and single family B class properties, and then long term and midterm rentals.
So a lot of people don't have the capital to, so they think, to be able to do real estate, right? And I always tell folks, you don't want to be broke. Like, you don't need to be living paycheck to paycheck to do real estate, but you also don't need to have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars available to your name to do it. What we have learned, what I've learned, what Tarl said he's learned, and I think you guys would probably agree, is that if you can get good at finding deals,
Um,
then the money comes. And I used to think that
100%.
was theory until you do it enough. And it's like, it's fact. And it goes from who, like, how can I find a private lender to who am I going to choose to work with on this deal? But if you've never been there, people really struggle with that. Do y'all see that in your community?
Absolutely. I have totally subscribed to that. The deal is what matters. And if you find a good deal, you can find money. And just yesterday, I was negotiating with the wholesaler on a deal, and I texted a private money lender and said, "Hey, I need this much money by next week. Would you lend it?" And he just said, "Yes." And I thought to myself, that's crazy. Like 2, 3 years ago, I would have been like, "Oh my God, there's no way I can find this money." Now I'm like, it's a text. It's fine.
That's crazy. And it happens, people. I'm telling you guys, it happens. You got to put in the work. You got to do the deals. Maybe you have to get creative on the first two using hard money. You're partnering with somebody in your network. But if you can prove that, hey, I know how to do this, I buy
Mhm.
undervalued deals, it's clearly going to be worth this. I'm going to give you 12% and whatever, 1 or 2 points, and you're going to have your money back in 6 months. And then you fulfill on your promise, bro. When people get paid back that money, they start becoming the addicts, and they're like, "Hey, bro, you got another deal? Like, when are you gonna come to me for another one?"
Absolutely. But I think you hit the nail on the head there. You need to have a little bit of experience before you go out and try to raise private funds. I think that's where there's a disconnect with some people is they think that on their very first deal they're going to be able to source all this capital, and every now and then that does work, or if you have like a close relative or something like that then maybe, but you really have to have that proof of concept I think to make it work.
Agreed. 100%. You need to have those references. And that's where I've seen you can do a couple things. Number one, you can bring somebody in with a joint venture at the beginning and give them an equity stake. That tends to be a more lucrative way to bring people in, or using hard money, because hard money lenders, are a little more accessible to the less experienced. And yeah, your debt potentially is going to be higher in your monthly holding cost, but it allows you to get into the game to at least
Mhm.
proof concept. And then it starts opening the floodgates. You start posting that deal you've done that, you put on your personal Facebook. If you grow a brand like we all have, then you put it on your brand page and you let everybody know. And then all of a sudden you go to local meetups. And then people are like, "Hey, bro, if you ever need money, like, holler at me. Be glad to help you." And it's crazy how the floodgates open. It is absolutely insane.
And
It's
that's Amelia, I think your 11 unit is such a great example of how having that social capital and showing your experience can get you crazy types of deals that you wouldn't take down on your own.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I had been sharing my journey in real estate very casually on my Instagram, which is Amelia Joe REI. I had no idea anything was going to come from that. I was literally just like, I'm lonely in the real estate world. I want to connect with other people. And then I had this 11 unit come along, and I had none of my own capital left. And I put it out on Instagram, and a couple from Idaho that had a bunch of money sitting around that they couldn't buy anything with in California/Idaho was like, "Yeah, we have 100K. We'll JV on this deal with you." And so I was able to get into an 11 unit for $0 down. Yeah.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. That's huge.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing because Grace and I are both from small town Iowa to where we're not used to, like, I would say, all this money that's floating around. So for us, it truly was so eye opening to realize that if you can find a deal, there's so much money out there, like just waiting to be lent.
Mhm.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I'm like you guys, live in a small town to this day in South Carolina. People have a different mindset. And I
Mhm.
talk about this often. I mean, a lot of them are my friends. I love them. I hang out with them, but I call it the middle class mindset. There's nothing wrong with it if that's what you want to do. But for those of us who are striving more, and if you're buying real estate, you're striving for more. You have to understand there is a group of people out there who think differently. It doesn't make them better than the middle class mindset people, but they look at money differently. And I think we have to change our mindset for those of us who come from that to we're not begging people for money when we're
Mhm.
asking for private lenders. We are doing a business transaction where both parties are going to benefit.
Mhm.
And that's how you have to approach it. And because that's how the private lenders are approaching it. People just look at money differently. And as you do more deals, you will quickly start to look at money differently. And it's amazing because you look at it as a tool that needs to be deployed to earn interest and continue to grow. And that's what the wealthy do. And it's a very powerful thing. So I would imagine you guys started in the long term space, like most people. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I know that you guys have gotten to short term, and then you talk about midterm a lot. So, what's that evolution look like in your portfolios?
Yeah, so I definitely started the long term route. I wasn't even aware that there was something called a midterm rental. I obviously knew short term, but I was like, that's not really going to work in the markets I'm in at the time. And so when I learned about midterm, which midterm is or medium term, whichever you prefer, is a minimum of a 30-day stay in a furnished unit, usually. And our target demographic is typically traveling nurses. And so when I realized that, wait a minute, I could charge $750 for this studio unfurnished, but I can charge 1,300, 1,400 furnished and only spend, let's say, $3,000 furnishing it, that's going to make me twice as much, three times as much money. And I'm all for utilizing what I already own to make more money. You
Mm,
don't always have to keep buying and buying. You can increase the cash flow on a property just by switching up strategies. So I tried it on one unit in this 11-plex and it was super successful. And so then I was like, well, shoot, I'm just going to keep converting every single unit when it turns over until the demand stops. And the demand still hasn't stopped. So I'm
wow.
still converting them, which is crazy. I took that property from 5,000 a month in monthly revenue to like 12,000 a month within
Gee,
6 or 7 months. So that's been incredible.
that's
Mhm.
unbelievable. What a way to optimize what you already have. I think
Mhm.
that's huge that you said that. It's like you don't always have to continue scaling. What can we do to our current portfolio to literally, I mean, you've over doubled revenues. Now,
Yep.
I want to know this. When you are going from a long term to midterm, a lot of times on long term, you're not covering utilities, water, all that good stuff. You do on midterm. So is there like a number that the rents need to increase to, like a multiplier for it to make sense as far as the spread revenue to your expenses?
I would say this is probably true for both of us, but like 2.5 times the cash flow is what I need for long terms in my market. I'm pretty happy with $200 cash flow. If it's midterm, I want at least 500.
That's an awesome rule.
Yeah, I would say similar. The one thing that's different with my portfolio is like my 11 unit, I was already paying for all the utilities because they're all on one meter. So
Multi-family.
it really was a wash for me whether or not they were long or midterm, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, which is standard in the multifamily space. I wasn't even thinking through that. You're going to cover a lot of that, correct, in the multifamily space.
Yeah, unless you're lucky and you find a individually metered multifamily,
Hey,
then but
what's that formula? The Rams or the what is it?
Rubs.
Rubs. Is it Rubs? Yeah. Does anybody do that? Like, is that
I do.
common? You do that? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
yeah,
know why you
because
wouldn't.
well, like in Iowa, a lot of the multifamilies, smaller multifamilies are conversions. So like they used to be a single family, now they're converted. And so they just have one HVAC, they have one water meter. And so I just bill back every single month based on usage of number of tenants and square footage of each apartment.
Yeah, and that's what they call. You guys can Google it if you want to learn more. Rubs, RUBS. I'd probably type in like Rubs real estate or something.
Yeah.
Rubs real estate formula, and check out like what that is. But it's essentially what Amelia said. Like, take it. What is the average cost that is being, I guess, built out and then distribute it evenly? Are you able to nail it down per unit, or do you?
It's not a perfect science. So for my water bill, it's based on number of people in each unit. And then for my gas bill, it's based on the square footage of each unit.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I
Yep.
love that you do that. That's I'm in the middle of a rehab on a duplex, and the meter was so old it had to be replaced. And I'm kind of trying to make a decision on what I want to
Mm.
do, because the cost to add a second meter like is like really hefty. And so we're making that decision, like, do we want to bite the bullet and do that because we're going to keep it as a rental, or do I just do one and do what you're saying, just distribute the cost? And I think I'm leaning more towards one, because literally save, I don't know, I don't remember what the cost was, but it was thousands of dollars to add a second meter.
It's thousands, and it's also thousands if you keep the utilities in your name and just pay them. So I would recommend Rubs if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No doubt. That is awesome. So what have you guys, are y'all trying to convert everything to midterm at this point? Like, are y'all going all in on that? Are you trying to stay diversified with some of the long terms and then mix in some short terms in certain locations as well?
For me, I converted like 12 or 13 midterms in a year. So I feel like I'm at a good point to just keep adding long-term rentals to stabilize, and just because it's easy and I'm doing a lot more flips right now. But I know, Amelia, you're still adding midterms.
Yeah, I'm still adding midterms strategically, but I am also diving more into the short term rental market. And I know there's a lot of people out there right now that think that short term rentals are on the decline, but I think it's the operators that aren't treating it as a business that are the ones going under. And I'm confident and I know that I can run a very successful short term rental. So I'm swooping in and buying a couple more this year because, again, I don't need to own thousands of properties. If I can own some really strategic properties that make a lot of money, I would much rather do that.
Yeah. Chad Carson wrote a book recently talking about the small and mighty investor.
We're
It's like,
big fans.
yeah,
We love Chad.
he lives like 20 minutes from me in
Oh,
right up the road in Clemson. So he, I mean, he does a great job of, like, I think there's a time for scaling, even for the small and mighty investor. Like, you need to get to a certain number, whatever that number is. And then, all right, how do we at that point either trim it down or start paying stuff off? And
mhm.
you don't have to, you see these guys that got 1,000 units, 2,000 units. You don't have to do that. Number one, they don't even own, they may own 5% equity in that or 8%
Yeah.
equity in that. You're dealing with a lot of investors. You don't have to do that to have life-changing wealth. You can buy 10, 15, 20 properties, start paying them down, have a bunch of equity, cash flows can increase in every year through rent increases, and you live a pretty darn good life. And so I like your take on short terms. It's interesting because when I started in the short term space in I think it was 2019, there wasn't as much competition, even just whatever 4 or 5 years ago. And so, like, you could kind of throw a property up and do pretty darn good without optimizing it. And then I've seen, even with our property, it's like, okay, where I was the only house kind of in a 2 mile radius, I was on short term rental. Now there may be 12 of them. And so you
Mhm.
really have to look and say, how do I stand out? And I've seen, you guys tell me if you've seen something different in the short term space. If you're just listing like a 3 bed, 2 bath, like standard looking home, you're in trouble in a
Uh,
lot of different markets, and it's going to depend what market. So that's a tough blanket statement for me to say, but what I've seen be successful is kind of the larger homes that are done nice, they have the amenities, or what we have is like a 2 bed 2 bath 900 square foot, like, cute little tree house on an island by the beach, and we've decorated it, beachy stuff, and it really stands out, and it's for a specific, like, hey, this is for a couple, or this is
mhm.
for a small family. Or you got the big ones like we talked about that are for large parties. And those seem to be the two. And then you got to optimize, how it looks and the amenities and how you're running it. But what's your guys' thoughts on that? Because I think that's where a lot of people got in trouble, is the saturation. And so many people just jumped in the game in 2021 and got lazy with it and threw it on there. It's like, oh, I can make money. And now they can't. Are you struggling to manage your real estate business across multiple spreadsheets, tools that aren't connected, and a banking solution that's not built for your needs? You need a partner like Baselane. You need a simple yet powerful platform to manage your rental property business. Baselane is the #1 banking platform built for real estate investors. It's business checking, online rent collection, bookkeeping, tax reporting, analytics, and more, all in one place. With Baselane, start automating your rental business finances and say goodbye to countless hours of busy work while taking control of your rental property finances to reduce expenses and increase your rental income. Join more than 40,000 real estate investors who trust Baselane to manage your rental property finance with confidence. Open an account in minutes. It's that fast. head over to baselane.com/cowboy and sign up for the chance to win a $500 Amazon gift card. That's baselane.com/cowboy, COWBOY. And you're going to be entered into a raffle for the opportunity to win a $500 Amazon gift card. Go sign up today. Hey guys, when you're just starting out as a real estate investor, finding deals is the most important thing you can do. But unfortunately, it can also be your biggest hurdle. And let me tell you, it gets even harder when your business grows and you don't have a lot of time to look for properties and evaluate deals like you did on the front end. That's why you need to work with New Western. New Western has properties ready for rehab on their marketplace today. That means you skip the hours of research, driving neighborhoods, or calling agents. And instead, you get to start with a ready-made property. You can rehab and flip it, or rehab it and burr it and hold it as a rental. So why is New Western good at what they do? Well, they buy and sell a property every 13 minutes. They work exclusively with investors and value-add properties, and that's all they do. They're licensed agents, they have a network of lenders, and they'll help you grow your business. So if you're ready to jumpstart your next project, visit newwestern.com, join their marketplace, and access the largest private source of rehab properties in the nation.
I agree 100%. And Grace actually has a really cool project that she's working on that is right in line with what you're saying. So I think you should talk about your delve into short-term rentals coming
Yeah.
up, Grace.
Yeah, I'm not a short-term rental operator, but hopefully I will be one by the end of Q3. I bought a lot with a house that needs torn down, and I'm building 2 shipping container houses for Airbnb in the downtown
Yes.
area of my market. But I'll be very clear, I will not be the operator on that. I'm not great at short-term rentals or hospitality or anything, so I'll have a property manager do that. But like you're talking about, in my market, it's a very small Midwestern town. It's just like you said, the regular 3-1, 3-2, nothing to it. So I know as long as I do something somewhat special, I will kill all the other competition.
Well, doing what'd you say, the box, I call them box cars, shipping containers, whatever, that's going to stand out, dude.
Yeah.
That is, I'd imagine there's probably not any others in that
Nope.
area who are doing that. Or
Nope.
you can
No.
market the crap out of that.
Yeah. I am
She hired
excited for
an
that piece.
well, you hired an architect that like crushed it. They're so aesthetically pleasing. Like you know exactly who your target market is going to be. You're going to have the hot tubs. Like you've niched down so that they're going to be so popular.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We'll see. We're hoping to break ground in a couple months when the ground thaws, but it's probably going to be the most
And the
exciting
ground
project
thaws.
I've done yet.
You know you live up north and you're like, we can't
Yeah,
build yet because the ground didn't thaw.
exactly.
Bro, y'all
Uh,
got to come south. We got to get you guys out
I
of the
know.
cold.
The
Oh,
tundra.
that's funny. That is funny. Are you gonna, guys, go follow Grace? Grace, what's your Instagram handle so they can see it when it's done?
Grace.investing. I have posted a few pictures so far, so go take a look.
Okay, go check it out. I'm excited to keep up with that. That is amazing. And if you think about it, I mean, we'll be in touch. Send me the link, and when it's done, I'd love to add it to these show notes. That way, people who find this episode later can check it out because that's really cool. I'm excited for you guys. One thing that I think people struggle with is knowing when to keep a property versus flipping it. You know, there's certain questions that I get a lot. You guys probably get the same ones. I get a lot of questions about LLCs. I get a lot of questions about, where to buy. And then one of the big questions is, how do you know whether to keep it or flip it? How do you guys go through that process in your mind making those decisions?
Right now, I actually did things backwards than most people. I started keeping everything, and now I'm adding in flipping. For me, it's about location. So right now, with 8% interest rates, I know I'm not going to cash flow like a king. But what are the properties that are in really good areas that once I can refinance, I'm going to be so happy I held on to? And I've also started to realize, like, specifically, I need to start thinking about more of who's going to be in my property. So, bigger properties, bigger than 3 bedrooms, I've started to flip those because I don't want a 4 bedroom rental property because that's a ton of wear and tear. Probably kids, probably pets.
Yeah.
So, I've started to actually try to understand who's going to be living here and is this going to be the best house to hold on to, or should I take the cash and reinvest to something else?
Love that.
I would add that you really need to treat your rental portfolio like a business, which means reviewing your financials every single month and yearly or quarterly. But if you have rental properties that are underperforming, you think they're bringing in $300 a month, but then when you look at the proper, like your financials, and you're like, wait a minute, I've been spending $250 every single month on little fixes or pest control or whatever it might be. So I'm making $50 on this property. Is it really worth it? So you need to be reviewing your financials. And then also, like, if I have a bunch of big capex expenses that go into a property, like one in particular that I'm thinking of, we had to put a new $10,000 roof on it. Then we had to pay for bats to be abated from the attic, which is $5,000 if you didn't know.
That
And
is
then we had a giant sewer repair. And it was this giant 4-bed, 3-bathroom property. It just wasn't worth it anymore. But we probably walked away with 50K profit, and we got back all of our capex. But like, if you're just sinking money into a property, it might be time to sell. So
I love that. I'm kind of like you, Grace. I started building a portfolio before. Well, I flipped a home in 2015. It was a disaster. Never saw it, which you can do that a lot, but I just I had no systems in place. I walked away with like 8 grand profit and had a JV, and I just gave him all of it because it was so so bad. I was like, just take 8 grand. Like, thanks for the experience. And so we didn't flip anymore. We started just buying rentals in 2018, and we flipped, a couple, 3, 4, 5 times throughout the years. Just if you want capital for a project at the house or whatever the case may be. But we're at the point now to where like we're pretty stacked on our rental portfolio, and I was running numbers just like for what that portfolio is doing for my life now compared to what it's going to be doing for my life in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And I was looking, I'm like, bro, like if we never bought another property, like
Mm-hmm.
the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years are, I mean, they're perfect. And so I'm kind of shifted more to like, all right, how do I affect my today even more with my real estate portfolio? It
Right.
already brings in, a great deal of income for us, but it's like, all right, how do I either trim that down or flip more, or flip to pay some of these off, or flip to buy additional ones in cash, which sounds insane. I would have never said that 5, 6 years ago. But that's kind of been our shift of, all right, we've been buying rentals because that's what's building that long-term wealth. Well, now it's like, okay, long-term wealth is there. Do I just want more income to play with and either
Yeah.
create more income for myself today, or just do whatever, travel to Europe or whatever I want to do with it. And so we've leaned in, and I just listed a flip for sale today, 2903 Edgewood Avenue in Anderson, just went on the market, and got another one that's going to be listed next week, and I'm already on the hunt for another. So it's interesting how your strategies can change as you go. I remember first starting out, I was like, oh, if I can just buy 1 or 2 rentals a year, I'll be good. I bought those 2 in 2018. Then I was like, no, I need to scale to as many of them as I can. Just keep buying, just keep buying. And then it's like, all right, do I really need to keep buying? Like, how much money do I actually need,
yeah.
in the future? And I think that's okay. I think, you can look and you need to evaluate. And I love what you said, Amelia, like evaluate, make sure. I think so many people struggle even in their personal financials. That's why nobody has money. So everybody lives paycheck to paycheck, is they won't sit down and write a budget and really look at like what's coming in and what's going out. And it's hard. Oh my gosh, to sit down and like actually have to stare at the financials. Like what rent are you bringing in? Oh crap, I'm losing money every month. That's not fun. It kind of gives you the pit in your stomach, but you have to do that or you're not even really running a business, and you're going to screw yourself in the long term.
It's that small and mighty investor mindset. Like, I'm to that point too, Jaron, where I'm almost like, do I sell off a few? And we have started selling off a few strategic properties that aren't quite performing as well as we want, but have some equity built in,
Mm.
and then using that money to either pay off some of our other properties or buy much more strategic short-term rentals like I was talking about, that are going to make me a lot more money right now. So yeah, I love that concept.
Yeah.
One thing just the other day, I love running those numbers like you were saying, how you look at what your portfolio is, you put it in the investment calculator, and you see in 2050 it's going to be this. And I remember I sent Amelia like a text the other day. I was like, I forget how rich we're going to be in like 20
It's
years. I
crazy.
can't wait.
I
Um,
know.
but I think it's like for us, what we all started investing is we said, all right, we're going to start with 30 years from now. And now that we've built that portfolio, like you were saying, now how do I increase my income for today? Because I know my income in 2050 is going to be wild, and I'm set. I don't really need to keep delaying that gratification. I already did that hard work, and I'll still continue to do it a little, like, I'll still continue to do it, but I also am looking to make money today. That's why I've started flipping. That's why we started doing midterm rentals. That's why we have WIIRE. So it's nice to know that you took care of yourself for the long term. And now, what do we need to do now to be able to actually enjoy all this stuff today?
That is so good. You said a buzzword of mine, delayed gratification. I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of really smart people on this podcast. And when I look at what is a core pillar of everybody, it's delayed gratification. It gets into every podcast somewhere or the other. And it's something you have to start with. My dad used to say when I was younger, you can pay now or play later. You can play now or pay later. It's the
Oh,
same
I
thing.
love that.
Yeah, it's good. I think it came from John Maxwell. I don't think my dad thought of it, but we'll do until we can verify that. But you have to start there. But at some point, you have to step back and start enjoying the fruits of your labor. And I think it's very hard for us to do that because we're all so driven, and you just get in this cycle of being a deal junkie and you're used to doing it in a certain way. And if you keep doing it that way, you're going to keep affecting your future in a positive way. But if you would have done it a different way, you make it affected your now even more. And that's been my biggest struggle is like, all right, Jaron, slow down. You've been grinding for 10 years, like really delaying gratification. Let's pivot a little bit. No, it's going to be hard for you because you're going to sink more equity into deals, and you got to do some things out of your comfort zone that you don't like, but you got one life. You want to wait till you're 50, 60 to have these millions
Yeah.
coming in, or do you want to do it sooner? And so millions, thousands a month, whatever, whether we're talking about equity or income. But I think that's a shift everybody has to make, but I think it's very hard to change that mindset.
Yeah, because what if the future never gets here? Not to be morbid,
Yeah.
but and then it's like you did all of this, and yeah, maybe for your kids, but Amelia and I don't have kids, so we always joke, we're like
I love it. I have kids. They can figure it out.
yeah, that's what we say, we're like, "F 'em, like, they can figure it out, I want some money now."
Yeah.
Obviously, I would say something different if I had children, but I agree, it's you have to find the fine line of both, and it's like real estate investors are on the far end where it's all delayed gratification to a detriment, but
Yes.
then the middle class mindset's the other detriment, everything right now, nothing for later,
Mhm.
so how do you figure out what is the happy medium?
Yeah. And I think you can get both of those coins, um, like focus in on both of them separately at different times. Like focus on delayed gratification for 5 years, 10 years, however long it takes, and then just be like, all right, I'm done with that for now. Like
Mhm.
I'm just gonna focus on now. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think, like you said, we've really hardwired our brains, and it's so hard to get out of that. I read a book recently called Die with Zero. Have y'all read that before?
Such a good book. I made my dad read it, and he ended up retiring early.
Yo, hey, dude, that's sick. That is awesome. I would recommend everybody read it. Now, I do give a disclaimer. I thought there was some fluff. Like there was some
For
fluff in
sure.
the book, but the overall
The
theme of it was really, really, really good. And that's something I've kind of taken to heart. It's like, bro, we need to live, we need to enjoy life now. Like, how do we retire as early as we possibly can and die with zero? Stop trying to accumulate so much. Because
Mhm.
I think one of his principles is like, if you have more than you need when you die, you've worked overtime for no
You
reason.
wasted. You wasted your day working. Your
Exactly.
life.
He's like, "Is that what you wanna do?" And he's not saying like, I have 4 kids, and so for me, estate planning is big, and you guys, if you decide to have kids down the road, you understand they're very expensive, and so mine now is more expensive now than I thought it would have been 10 years ago, and so you have to make shifts. But even in this guy's book, he talks about that doesn't mean you neglect giving to your kids, just give it to them while they're alive, like, help them
Yeah.
go do things, and it was a really cool concept.
My grandma actually ended up this book sparked so many conversations in my family. I actually told my parents because they did the same thing. They grinded, paid off 3 rental properties on, like, my dad was making like $10 an hour when he had 3 kids 20 years ago, and they paid off 3 rental properties, and I always thought we were poor. And then, like, a couple years ago, my sister was helping them with their retirement, and I was like, "Holy shit, what happened here? That you guys have 4, including their primary, 4 paid off rentals, all this stuff." And so we started to talk about retirement, and I told them, "I'm going to be fine. I would rather you spend your money on stuff now and spend it. Do not leave me a penny because I already did the work for my retirement. And I'd rather spend time with you or see you do things that you enjoy than you die with all this money and I don't need it."
Wow, what a great daughter. That's awesome. That is
Like,
really
but if you
cool.
want to leave some, that's fine
Yeah,
too.
no, you can believe so too.
I'm
But the
not
fact that
turning
this
it down. I'm
Yeah,
just
the
it's all
offer's
saying.
still on the table.
it's all going to Salvation Army or something. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but that's cool that they like heeded the advice, because again, that's a tough shift to make. Like that's really hard to make that mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Grace and I talk about this in our book Hack Landlord, where we're landlording is a means to an end. It's a way to make your life exponentially better. And the fact that you even own rental properties is a life hack in and of itself, because it can create so much freedom for you. And Grace and I really try to live a life of, why are we even investing in real estate? It's so that we can have all this freedom. And if we're not taking advantage of that freedom, what's the point in the first place? So
Mm-hmm.
we really try to do what we love every single day, because that's the reason why we invest in the first place.
I
I will
love
add one example I love is like Amelia plays pickleball like 2 or 3 hours on a random Thursday, just in the middle of the day. And she'll be like, no, no meetings, nothing. That's when I play pickleball. And because you should, you worked your ass off for a few years and now you can go do that. And that's something I struggle with, is like even the 40-hour work week. I struggle with trying to get rid of that mindset of like, I need to be at my desk 8 to 4. 5 days a week. And I'm like, no, I'm in charge. I can do whatever I want. But it's harder to actually put that into practice, but we try.
it. It is so hard. It is so hard. I think people look at like, well, you have all this income coming in, you got your rentals and this and that. It's like, why do you keep doing stuff? It's like, because we're driven, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so it's like, we want to keep doing stuff. We'll always keep doing stuff. But the other side of that is we have to figure out a better pace, because I think we were also used to sprinting, that at some
Mm-hmm.
point you got to pace it out because you'll never stop.
Yeah, and you can change what you're focusing on. So like we were all really focused on growing our real estate portfolios, but now Grace and I have the passion project of WIIRE that we use our drive towards. I mean, we all, I think, like to work. And so once you have that income coming in from your rental properties, you can focus more on things that you really love doing. And that's huge.
What
Mm-hmm.
is, let's break down WIIRE. I'm glad you brought it up. So this is your guys' investing community for real estate. What is that for all the ladies listening?
Yeah, it's Women Invest in Real Estate. It started as a free virtual meetup when Amelia and I were just trying to connect with other people in the industry. And now it's turned into boot camps, a podcast, retreats, a book. So it's super incredible. But I think the essence of WIRE is just the women who are in it are all incredible and funny and driven and just authentic. And we have so much freaking fun with all the people who are in WIRE. And it is so lonely when you're starting out and trying to build wealth. And then when you find your community, as I'm sure you found with Finance Cowboy, it's a complete game changer.
I know you guys have fun. I'm a testament to it. I didn't come to your party, but I got to hang out with you guys for hours before the party, and y'all were so giddy. Y'all were just like two little kids, like, we're going to our sleepover tonight with all of our girlfriends. And then I saw y'all the next day, just like dragging in. I was like, what's wrong with you guys?
A
And you're
little
like,
too much fun.
well, we stayed up a little late. I was like, yeah, if I was a betting man, I would have bet that was going to be the case. And y'all had a blast the entire Bigger Pockets with your group. It was cool to see, just the excitement and the passion that came from you guys about this community.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're all about empowering women to live out their wildest dreams through real estate. Like that is literally our motto.
Wow.
And we want to have so much fun and make those authentic connections while doing it, which I think sets us apart, because Grace and I are super relatable. We're outgoing. Like we want to get to know you as a person. And that's why people love the WIRE community.
Where can they find more information on it if they're interested in joining?
Womeninvestinrealestate.com or wire.community on Instagram with 2 eyes.
Sweet. Team, if you can put those links in the show notes, that would be great. That way, any listeners who are interested can go down to the show notes, click on it, and check it out, and you will not be disappointed. What a great group of ladies, absolutely crushing it in life and in the real estate space. Grace and Amelia, one more time, where can everybody find you individually, in case they want to reach out with any questions?
Yeah, so my handle on Instagram is Amelia Jo REI, and that's where I'm most active, and you can find me there.
Same, except my handle is grace.investing.
Love it. Amelia, Grace, thank you guys so much for coming on. We've been trying to make this happen for some time now, and we finally were able to do it. Enjoyed the episode, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.